Let's start. So the title of my presentation here is Trust is Good, Optimal Control Tools Are Better, which is a quote from, in Germany, from Lenin, who somehow says, Doveya nor proveya, which means something like trust but check. And that's also the topic here of the talk. So we have a control system and we want to optimize the resources, which are the inspectors and the gantries. And this joint work together with Elmar Swarat, who is the head of the working group for individual traffic at the Zuse Institute. And so let's start. So I will just shortly explain who we are and then what and why we do this. And in the end, I will explain some of the challenges we faced and we tackled and how we did this in the past. So LBW is a small spin-off company, but we are already working on large-scale scheduling since 2000. So we have a huge background in solving crew scheduling and vehicle scheduling problems in public transport, railway transportation, and air transportation. And we have all a background from Zuse Institute. So we did our PhD there or worked there in several projects and also in cooperation projects. And here's now a complete list of the team who is working on this particular setting for this control system. And we have on the one hand the German authority who's responsible for the toll system in Germany, which is BAG, and there Christoph Auerbach and Gerd Schneider are the main managers on that project. I couldn't list all the planners and inspectors and all the other IT members who did a lot for this project. So I only listed here the people who are engaged on research and who are also working hard on implementing and deploying these things I will present now. Okay, the German truck system, toll system is for trucks only at the moment, and it's on all highway roads and also on all larger roads. So it's a very big network in Germany where you have to pay toll for the distance you drive. So here are the key numbers of the system. So you have a lot of terminals where you can buy your ticket or you log in. And we have a lot of control resources to schedule. So we have more than 500 inspectors. And we have also automatic controls, which are basically cameras, and they are placed in gantries or in pillars. And these are not so difficult to schedule because they cannot complain. So that are very stable resources. So that's why we focus today on the other mobile tours of the inspectors. So another thing I wanted to say is that you have two types of users. So on the one hand, you have truck drivers who pay online, who have an onboard unit in their truck, and so they pay the distance they drove by GPS. And then you also have some kind of manual bookings who just say, I want to go through the truck network and want to drive there. And both users have the possibility to evade because maybe you don't pay the right fee, or you just turn off this onboard unit and you drive the road. So that's why you need a control system to take care that everybody is paying the correct thing here. And that's why you have these both kind of resources, because these gantries are very static ones, but they produce a lot of photos and a lot of workload. So they can do it a lot of things automatic, but they are of course not such flexible. And that's why you have also human inspectors who then can control if it was a mistake, or if just the camera was wrong, or just see what's going on the street individually. And so the focus here is now on the mobile tours for the inspectors, and those controls happens that the vehicle from the control team is overtaking the truck, and then it directly communicates via GPS if this truck pays correctly or not. And if it's not paying, then you can send him out and say, okay, now let's check and give him the fee that he has to pay. Okay, so let's, to get an idea how the systems look like, I will open a nice visualization from who's provided from Stefan. So let's see, that's basically part of the truck network in Germany. And what you can see is that this is the network we have to control. So you have edges and nodes. You have depot nodes where you have your inspectors. They are located there because they live there, or you have the depot there where the control vehicles are located. And what you also have is then you have different possibilities to go on sections. So for instance, if you control for 2 hours or 3 hours or 4 hours in the morning, then it would make sense to control section A, section B, or section F. So it's always a sub-network from the bigger network, so to say. And what we also have is we have the locations of the cameras, and we also have a lot of historical traffic. So we have a very good data situation here. So we know where's high traffic, when is high traffic, and so on. And that's the problem setting in this project. And we found out that, of course, it's important to get the culture of the project partner, but also to get their goals. And here's a slide where we can see the different goals we detect in this project. So on the one hand, they wanted to maximize the controls. They want to maximize traffic they control, the quantity, but they also want to maximize the controls there where you have potential evasions. So that's why we have these two objective aspects where we somehow take a look at the historical data where we know there should be a lot of traffic and there are a lot of evasions. So there are areas in Germany where the evasion is higher than in other areas. And once again, Theodore Roosevelt will give us here a quote for this. And on the other hand, other things are important that if you solve such a model, you want to be able to say, okay, your solution will also be implemented. So you have to make sure that also the inspectors accept these solutions. So, and that's why we also see that inspector acceptance is a very important thing to handle. And also from a game theoretic point of view, we want to say, okay, what is the thing an invader would do now if he knows that there is a control? So you can somehow come up with a predictive model where you somehow model the behavior of the other players in the model, which gives you some strategic coverage of the network instead of just maximizing historical data, which is more or less taking into consideration what will be the effect in the future if you do this solution. So this is the practical point there. And now let's discuss some of the things how we do this. So we always consider these application-driven problem cycles. So we start with a problem, try to model it, and then come to a numerical solver and optimize this very fast and get back to the system. In best case, we have a monitoring system where you get the real output of your solutions, which is somehow the case here at this project, because we can easily find out how many evasions do we had, or how much controls happened, or what is with the acceptance with the plans. Are they satisfied or are they demotivated? That's pretty good. And then there's another business cycle is basically together with IVU, who's giving the planning system here. And there's another cycle which is more on work on being better and better. So that's something we also want to do always, to find out what is the mathematical problem in our model. How can we do this more faster? How can we solve this problem more faster? And how can we add some new features? So the input, as I already told, is the network and the traffic prognosis. So you also have these vehicle locations and the number of vehicles, the number of inspectors, and you have a lot of duty and rostering rules, classical rules. So here is a screenshot of how this looks like with the truck traffic in some area in Germany. So it's obviously you have this Monday to Friday curve, and then at the weekends it's sometimes not allowed to drive or only with some special rules, and that's why the control is also limited on Saturday and Sunday. And then this graph represents what you can do with your rostering. And the duty construction rules in this setting are basically starting time, working times are different. You have combinations of depots and sections, which depot can handle which section. You have also all these inspector availability. So some people might have vacation or might have some training and so on. And classical things you put in your model. And also the rostering and construction rules are pretty straightforward. Classical working time accounts, rules like at least number of days free or at most working days in precision, in sequence. And one obviously goal is that you don't want to have different starting times in the week, which is called rotation. So you don't want to start early at one day and then late on the other and so on. That are the main objectives in this project and problem. And the output is then a pretty integrated thing. So you have to compute vehicle tours for each day. You have to compute inspector duties for each day and also rosters for the complete month. So the planning is for a complete month, 1 month before. So, and that was already published in this paper here a long time ago for 3 years. And this is how classical Gantt chart looks like from this roster, where you can see where the teams are working and where do they have free or not free. And the model behind this is also a large scale classical MIP model, where you have a tour planning part, you have a roster flow part, where you have all the roster rules in it, or you have it in the graph formulation. And then you couple both models and have to decide on the objective, and the objective has different parts like this, as I already said, the traffic maximization or the inspector acceptance and the different things there. And now the solution approach in a nutshell is also classical MIP. So we want to maximize the profit here. So we solve a linear relaxation, which gives us, in this case, for maximization, upper bound. And this is basically a fractional solution like shown here on the left. And sometimes you can easily see how to come up with an integer solution from this. This will give you sometimes a lower bound, and then we try to optimize and put upper bound and lower bound tighter to the optimum and prove optimality. And that's something we also like to work on. And here only some buzzwords how we do this in this project. So we have on the primal side, we have different heuristics like link-Kernighan heuristic or coarse-to-fine column generation, where we ignore some duty types or roster risks and construct a solution heuristically very fast. And on the other side, we also have dual tricks to improve the lower bound so that the convergence of the MIP approach is faster. This is done by integer rounding for binary knapsacks or different kind of couplings, these two problems. And I mean, these problems are in theory very hard, but we are very lucky that the number of inspectors is not too big and also the duty rules are not too complex, so that we don't have to struggle there. But it's, of course, a large-scale problem which you cannot put in a MIP model for all problem sizes. So, and this is now a slide where I report on the deployment of this project. So it was a research project at SIP, where the model was developed in a standard way, and the prototype was designed by Elmar Swarat, and then it was quite successful, so that we have to deploy it for all people, for all departments at BAG. And so we started with 2 regions and then did a rollout for all 20 regions. And then we learned a lot about special cages, more features, more data, more problems. But this took us some time to fix this. And since then, this tool is used since more than 5 years now, and a lot of MIP solutions gone into productive schedules. And now I will focus on 2 features which were essential to put this in production. So the one thing, as Zahir already mentioned, it's a trick. I would say it's the import reference solution thing. You must always be able to put a solution from the customer or a solution from some idea or from some rule in your model and tell them what is wrong, what is violated, and how much is the objective function of this, so to say, solution, even if it's not a solution in a mathematical setting. So, and what you then do, you sometimes discover that your problem is not right and you have forgot some degrees of freedom, or the customer doesn't tell you. So maybe there's a section you didn't get in the data, or some rules you don't get in the beginning. There you will find out that there are sometimes cases where you can violate rules in very special situations. For instance, if there's a vacation, public vacation on Wednesday, then some other rules are not active anymore also. And you will also see that there are different desired properties in the solution, which for planners or inspectors also was a rule of thumb, and they said, okay, that's something we think it must be, but they never told you. And so you find out that there are also structures which you want to benefit in your objective function, or the other way around, you want to penalize if they don't want to have some situations in the solution not so often. And that's why this reference solution feature is something you should always build if you do an optimization project, because it is some a general thing. So the second thing is not that general, it's more focused because of this human thing, because you will always get some complaints about the solution, and that's why in rostering you have to take care of fairness. And in this particular application, it was that some inspectors have temporal restrictions, so they are not allowed to work in the morning or in the evening. And then it leads to the fact that these restrictions have a big influence on the solution for other inspectors. And what you can do then, you should consider these preferences of inspectors, so that you know in your model when an inspector is satisfied or not. And in our case, also the BRG team come up with a different approach, so that we use a two-stage optimization approach where we solve the model in the beginning without these restrictions. We then fix the duties which are not violating these restrictions, and then again solve the model with these fixations and put the restrictions again in the model. And this leads to a little bit less traffic or evasion score, but it leads to a much higher inspector acceptance. And in the end, this was a very fruitful way to come up with this, to bring fairness into this model here. And now the inspector acceptance is definitely higher than before. Okay, so now let's summarize what I presented here. So as Zahir also said, it's important to find the culture to understand the culture in your project partner's world. So it's also important to find a common language. You should think about all the players in the system. So in our case, it was the inspectors, the planners, also the managers, or the software providers, or the IT group. So everybody has his own view on some projects, and so think you are one of them. And one big issue was, of course, that you have to come up with a good standardization. Otherwise, you cannot roll out individual tested system on much more scenarios. And MIP is the perfect stage for this, because there you can very easily adapt if you want to say, okay, this rule is not hard anymore, it's soft, or this combination of variables leads to some desired property or not. And therefore, it's good to be able to fastly adapt your model in directions you might not think about before. And of course, you must be very fast in this feedback loop. Otherwise, the motivation of your project partner gets lost, and you must be able to help this loop and never leave this loop. And yeah, what I also said is that you should accept moving targets, because when they work on their problems and on their planning, then sometimes the planning process changes due to other things, and you have to come up with this. And if you want to that they lose your software, then you should sometimes adapt to those things. Yeah, and maybe in deep contrast to the standardization, it's always important to tackle the details into special cases. As Sayer always also said, sometimes easy things might have a big influence on the project, and that's why also special cases are very important and can lead to huge benefit for the project partners. And at the end, of course, use your own tools. So imagine you are the planner or you are the inspector, and what would you say to the solution? That's always a good thing and always a good thing you should do in a project. Okay, thank you very much. That's it.